Hi there, Sonia here. Welcome back to another episode of the Help I'm Artist podcast. Pablo Picasso was the first living artist to ever have his work hanging in the famous Louvre Museum in Paris. He produced his first painting at the age of 7. The Little Yellow Picador it was called, which he refused to sell his entire life. If you want to see a picture of this wonderful little painting, you can scoot over to my website and have a look. Picasso was one of the most prolific artists of our time. Even when he was alive, his art was greatly sought after and internationally applauded. His secret? He worked every day, rain or shine. Picasso even once said, "Inspiration exists, but you have to find it working." And work he did. He produced an astounding 50,000 artworks, including 1,800 paintings, 1,200 sculptures, over 2,800 pieces of ceramics, more than 12,000 drawings, and many thousands of prints, and numerous tapestries and rugs. Picasso showed up. He worked on his art. He took himself seriously and mastered his craft. In my previous podcast, episode 007, I shared that this can sometimes be a challenging thing, showing up. We also looked in more depth at the creative process and how the creative curve works, and where motivation comes from and how we can find our creative flow. In this episode, I will share 10 practical things artists can do to unzip their creativity and stay inspired. And just like Picasso, do the work. So let's get started. We have already determined that as artists we are self-motivators, and this starts with the way we think. In order to find our creative flow, we first need to change the way we think. This is number 1. Studies tell us that we have over 16,000 thoughts per day. How many of these thoughts are edifying, uplifting, and encouraging our artists' hearts to soar and to make art? That our thoughts have weighty consequences is summed up in this powerful quote. Watch your thoughts, because they become words. Watch your words, because they become actions. Watch your actions, because they become habits. Watch your habits, because they become character. And watch character, because they determine your destiny. A sobering thought that our thoughts become words, and that our words become actions, and that our actions become habits, and that our habits become and determine our character, and the character that we have determine our destiny. I will leave a copy of this quote and all the quotes mentioned in the podcast in the notes on my website. It's mind-boggling to think that all my actions or my non-actions start with a single thought. You want to start a painting or a new project, but you feel that you're not good enough, that you're not smart enough, that you're not educated enough, or not pretty enough, or not arty enough. Only you have the power to change the way you think about yourself and how you think about your art. Developing a healthy mindset about yourself and about your art will determine the course and the success of your art and your art career. What are you thinking? What are you saying about yourself and about your art? Determine to change your tune. Be kind towards yourself. Give yourself a break. Do whatever you need to build up your confidence. And realize that there are no real good thoughts or bad thoughts. Negative thoughts are often indicators that there is more than meets the eye. A thought, good or bad, only points us to a direction. It exposes an underlying value that's important to you. For example, maybe you had a show and you received a negative review. You can let that review ruin your momentum. It can overshadow everything that you do, or you can embrace it and learn from it. Firstly, is there an element of truth in the review? Remember, you'll never be to everybody's liking. Accept this, forgive yourself, and move on. And then, what are these thoughts and emotions of rejection and sadness really saying? It means that you value art, that your work is important to you, and that you feel misunderstood or undervalued. These values are good things. If you're in a negative cycle in your thoughts, try and underpin the value that it's exposing. And what does it say about you? Focus on the value and not on the negative thought or on the emotion. The emotion is not you, and often the emotion is not even the truth. Your values are far more important and deserve to be celebrated. Rejection, unfortunately, is part of an artist's life, and build up resilience so that the criticism doesn't paralyze you, and that you can turn it around and use it to improve and empower your art. You cannot determine the way other people think about your art or about you as a person, but you can determine how you think about yourself and about your art and about your art career. So change the way you think. Be really aware of those thoughts rushing through your mind and determine to think good thoughts, positive thoughts, so that you can use it and make art. Artists are some of the most passionate people I know. They have the power to change and to influence the sentiments and emotions of people. This takes passion. This takes feeling and emotion. So when an artist loses his or her passion, it's like being a fish on dry land. Not a happy place. This brings me to motivator number 2, rekindling your passion. Do you remember why you wanted to be an artist? What you are passionate about? And if you could turn that passion into art, what would it look like? Remember why you started off in the first place. Look through an old diary or through your notes, if you have them, or find a piece of art that really touched you when you made it, and rekindle this passion. What words come bubbling up? What is that feeling that you had when you made this piece of art? Write these down. Get that feeling up and out and on paper again, or on canvas again. Why is it important that your art is seen and heard? What is that intrinsic, internal motive behind your work? It's common belief in our Western culture that when we work, we are rewarded by money. If you work for an employer, you get a salary at the end of the month for your work and for the energy that you delivered. Money has been a motivator and a reward for centuries. But as artists, we need more. What do you need as a reward for your work? Infuse your work with a new meaning. Find a higher purpose for your art, and do it passionately. Decide what you need in order to have and rekindle that passion. Surround yourself with passionate people so that you can make your art passionately. This brings me to motivator number 3, creativity and rest. In order to create, we need to put ourselves in a receptive state. We need to be open to receive. If you are stuck, find a place where you can open up, whether that is working in your garden, or reading a book, or taking a walk in nature. Being stuck is a closed gesture. It's a block. Something's not moving. Something's in the way. Find an area or a place where you can flow, where there is movement, where there is freedom. If you're a working artist, you can feel an enormous pressure. We need to work in order to do our part. We don't want to disappoint our spouse, who was skeptical about our art career from the start, or we don't want to let down our kids because we really want them to go to college, or our parents, who told us that we were the best artists ever, and mostly ourselves, because we stepped out and took a risk in pursuing our heart, and we don't want to prove our inner critic right. We feel the pressure, and we don't want to let them or ourselves down. This pressure can cause us to strive and to work very hard sometimes, burning the candle at both ends, and setting ourselves up to get totally burnt out. Learn to take this pressure off. Trust yourself enough that if you take a break, whether it is for an hour or if you go on vacation, that you are committed enough to do the work. It helps to make an incision point for yourself. When you're ready to take a break, have something ready for you to start when you come back, whether it is from vacation or from having a cup of coffee. If you have something planned to do when you come back, it's easier to make the transition and get back to work. Learn to rest, learn to listen, and get into a receptive state, a place where you can open up and receive and be inspired and motivated so that you can flow in your creativity. Number 4. Bill Gates once said, "Most people overestimate what they can do in a day, but underestimate what they can do in a lifetime." Most of us have unrealistic expectations, especially when it comes to our short-term goals. We jam our schedules full of all kinds of activities, and we often forget that making art takes time. A long time. Yes, and even longer than that. We live in a society that knows only instant gratification and undervalues time. It takes some practice to get a good grip on our time management. Reason number 1, would-be artists often tell me they can't be creative. They just don't have the time. You have to create space and time for your craft. One thing that might help you to keep the momentum is to commit in taking a class. I know I do. No matter how busy I am, I attend the class. It is my time to be creative and to be expressive, and it's always inspiring to be around creative people and to meet other artists. We share our stories about our art and about the latest art exhibitions in town and where we buy our art supplies. If you commit in doing this every week, you can keep your momentum going and your creativity will stay and will flow. Find out what works for you and what you need. I recently read a study on how world-class violinists use their time and how they practice in order to perform at such a high level. The study showed they didn't practice more, but they practiced with more intent. They were very specific and strategic about how they used their practice times. They tackled the hard stuff, systematically working out of their comfort zone until they mastered a certain piece of music and then moved on to the next piece. Make the time you spend on your art very intentional. These successful violin players I mentioned didn't only practice with more intent, but they adopted a 90-minute playing and a 15-minute rest cycle. When you love what you're doing, maybe you can relate, sometimes you can do it for hours at an end without taking a rest. But we need rest. We need to take our eyes off the screen, off the painting, or whatever we're creating. Take a rest. Plan times in which you work, and more important, take times in which you rest. Set an alarm if that will help you. In the podcast notes, I will include an infographic. I love infographics. There are pictures and there's facts, and this infographic is of some well-known successful artists from the past and from the present. The infographic shows the schedule of artists like Charles Dickens, writer Maya Angelou, and architect Le Corbusier. You see the times of day they were most productive in writing or practicing their art, and what time of day they rested. It's interesting to see that not one of them have the same schedules. They all divided their time into different activities which they performed at different times of day. Some were more active at night, while others were more active in the morning. Find out what works for you. On to number 5. Look back at what you've done. Now, I'm a very goal-driven person. I get very motivated by my to-do lists. And I'm always so happy when I can tick off things at the end of the day. To be honest, I can sometimes get quite despondent because I want to do far more than what is realistic in my planning. what I said about being unrealistic with my expectations is still quite challenging for me. So in order to help me in this area, at the end of the day, I go through all the things that I've done, and I look back with gratitude at what I was able to accomplish and try to be thankful for that. And lately I've added a new dimension at looking back over my day. In the midst of all my to-dos, I try and locate the things that were the most meaningful to me. Not so much what I enjoyed the most, that's quite something different, but what added more meaning to my life. I found that these meaningful moments are great motivators. Learn to celebrate little wins, little steps in the right direction. Adopt an attitude of gratitude and be thankful. Look at what you have and not only at what you don't have. At the end of the day, acknowledge what you have accomplished, however small. Acknowledge it and celebrate it. Maybe as you lie in bed, gratefully go through everything that you've accomplished. On to number 6. Think big. Find your BOG, your big, outrageous goal. There's nothing like a wild plan to get your adventurous, creative spirit energized and make you start to feel alive. Set some big, outrageous goals. I call them my BOGs. Do you have a BOG for your art and for your art career? One of my BOGs is to be financially free, to be able to teach and paint and write for an extended period of time in another country, together with my amazing husband Marco. Meeting new people, absorbing different cultures, and capturing this on canvas, on film, and in my writing. This big crazy goal has helped me many a time to get up and to get going, and I know one day it will happen. I've even made a collage of my BOG, and it is hanging in a prominent place where I see it every day. Make a collage of your big outrageous goal and email it to yourself, or make a Pinterest board and keep it alive until your goal materializes. You have to see it. You have to keep your dreams alive. Do you know what your BOG is? And how do you know if it's a big, outrageous goal? Here are some questions you can ask yourself, and I will include them in the podcast notes so that you can go through them step by step. Does your goal stimulate and excite you? Does it motivate you and create momentum in your art and in your life? Is it measurable and life-changing? Will this goal require you to stretch and step out of your comfort zone? Is it something people around you that know you will understand? And is your goal long-term? The best fuel for your creativity is some discomfort. Oh, discomfort. We don't like discomfort. We just like staying in our nice comfort zone. But maybe you're not living in your dream quite yet, but you can try a new medium. Do something scary or talk to a stranger, but get out of your comfort zone and feel alive and feel the challenge and meet that challenge. This will motivate you and inspire you to develop in your art. On to number 7. Setting the mood. Make your creativity as accessible as possible. Have your sketchbook with you wherever you go. Write and sketch and draw whenever a feeling or an idea or a line comes bubbling up. These sketchbooks are wonderful places to go when you feel dry and drained and uninspired. Sure, screen time will help you, but gathering your own creative treasures is much more effective. Have real-life experiences. Draw from life. Or write in a public space. This can be very invigorating and exciting. Or visit a museum or a gallery with the art that excites you. Maybe you have a favorite artist. Find a book about them and their lives, and be inspired by their work and about their life. And discover what you can learn from them, and learn from their lives and learn from their art. And if you really are in a pickle and you can't get to a museum, there are some great apps where you can go and take a virtual tour of a museum, and you can look at the art. check out the one from the Rijksmuseum. That's the National Museum in Amsterdam. I will include it in my podcast notes. Make your studio and your workplace an inspiring place in which you want to create. Change the mood in your studio, maybe by tidying up or hanging up an inspiration board or photos on your walls. Make the workplace accessible and a place where your creativity can flow. On to number 8. Affirmations. I love quotes. Maybe you've seen this in my Instagram feed and on my Facebook page. Quotes are great because they capture the essence of a piece of wisdom in a few words. Surround yourself with affirmations. Write them on a sticky note and put them in your studio, on your workplace, or somewhere where you can see them. Also, it's important to work on a support base around you and your art. You need cheerleaders. As artists, we need the help of others and nurture relationships with an art friend or a mentor who can help us along the way. Relationships with others will also help you stay accountable and help you keep a clear focus on what you're doing and where you're going. Find your cheerleaders. Join an art group or an art community online. You can't do it alone. You need inspiration and the affirmation from others. We're nearly there. Number 9. Sell something. When you sell a piece of art and actually get paid for it, this is probably one of the greatest motivators of all. Let's face it, this success feeling is the happy hormone for many an artist. The money that you receive is great and may come in handy when you need to invest in art supplies or pay your rent or insurance. But money is more than that. Money talks. It tells you that you are valuable and that what you are doing is worth something. The fact that somebody is willing to pay for what you've made is enough to get you back into your studio and have you do it all over again. Are you selling your art? Try and set up a system in which you can sell your art. Open an Etsy shop or offer your art online through your Facebook page, or ask friends if he or she is willing to buy a piece of art from you. Make something and sell it and celebrate it. The final number 10, perseverance. Remember, building your art career will take time. It doesn't happen overnight. We need to endure and persevere. Or like Picasso put it, inspiration exists, but you have to find it working continually. So be inspired. Take time to discover what you need and what will help you to get back and to stay in your creative groove. Do you need to change the way you think, or rekindle your passions, or take time to create and to rest? Or do you need to develop a realistic view about your time and your time management? Or do you need to look back and be grateful? Or do you need to set some BOGs, some big outrageous goals? Or change the mood in your studio? Or get into your sketchbook and start sketching and start noting the things that you see around you? Or do you need more affirmation? Can you put and write down some sticky notes and hang them where you can see them? Or can you use some input from others? Or do you need to sell something in order to feel validated and to feel valued? And perseverance, persevering till you finish your painting, or to finish a show, or to finish something, a goal that you've set, so that you can come out and feel that satisfied feeling that you've accomplished something. Remember, we're all different. There's no one size that fits all when it comes to motivation. In order to help you get a better grip on what you need to make your art consistently, or what you need in order to find your motivation, then you can download this special worksheet I've written as an extra free resource. You can download it on www.soniasmallhere.com/008. I know the questions and answers will help you grow as an artist and give you valuable insights for your art and your art business. Have a great week creating. If you are interested in more of my resources, then head over to my website and discover more resources available to help you on your artist journey. Don't forget to subscribe to my Help I'm Artist podcast on iTunes, and I would appreciate it if you left a review. This will help other artists find this podcast. Thanks for listening, and hope to connect with you next time. Bye for now.